Welcome back to Law and Crime. I'm Stacey Delikat, and thanks so much for sticking with us this afternoon on this very busy Tuesday as we monitor 3 live trials happening across the country. Well, day 4 of the former NFL star Kellen Winslow Jr.'s rape and indecent exposure trial is now underway. This afternoon, we expect to hear from a 4th accuser, a woman who says Winslow raped her back in 2003. Plus, Timothy Jones, he's accused of murdering his own 5 children, then loading their bodies into his car and driving around the South for days before dumping them. That is on a quick break, but that will be happening live on our website, lawandcrime.com, as his defense seeks to prove insanity drove him to kill. And you know, the McStay family murder case, it started back in January. Well, nearly 6 months later, closing arguments are finally underway. The prosecution delivering its closing statement right now. Charles Merritt is accused of murdering his business associate, Joseph McStay, and Joseph McStay's wife and 2 kids. This case, as I said, has stretched on a long time. The end could finally be in sight. You can watch that live on our website, lawandcrime.com. But first, the Winslow case has just resumed. Let's take you back live into the courtroom right now where testimony continues. We've been listening to testimony from Brandy Silverthorne, an evidence technician who was at the scene of Winslow's home, who photographed and seized several pieces of evidence there. In fact, the cross-examination has begun. Earlier, we heard her talk about a blue backpack that she found there and entered into evidence. We know that one of the victims described their accuser as having a black backpack. Joining me now live via Skype is Pate, criminal defense attorney. He joins us via Skype from Brunswick, Georgia. Thanks so much for being with us this afternoon, Paige.
Thank you, Stacey. Great to be with you.
So let's talk about this case briefly. I mean, you're a criminal defense attorney. This is a tricky case. There are a lot of accusations coming from a lot of different people. 5 Jane Does here. We expect to hear from number 4 later today. And so the prosecution needs to make sure every T is crossed, every I is dotted. They need to make sure all of the evidence is laid out as they're trying to do right now with this evidence technician. How difficult a job do they have, in your opinion?
Well, Stacey, they do have a difficult job because some people will think the more accusations you have against someone, that makes your case easier to prove. And that's generally true, but it can also be a disadvantage because the jury is going to expect each and every allegation to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So by taking on all these different people, all these different alleged victims, and having them testify in one criminal trial, the state is basically taking on the obligation of proving each one of these cases beyond a reasonable doubt. So while the fact that there's so many accusations is going to make it difficult for the defense, the prosecution has to treat each one of these as a separate case and prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
And the defense already, we've seen, has tried in some cases effectively to poke holes in a lot of these individual accusations. All right, we have been listening to this evidence technician, Brandy Silverthorne, on the stand. Her cross-examination has been going on, as well as redirect, and she's talking about, in the last few minutes at least, about Winslow's car, about evidence she seized, about DNA testing she did in there. Paige Pate, criminal defense attorney, still with us live via Skype. Paige, one thing I was wondering is, look, Kellen's defense team is saying in the case of Jane Doe 1 and 2, who allege they were raped, they claim this was consensual sex. So if in that sense they're almost, they are admitting that there was some kind of sexual intercourse, does the DNA, I mean, how important is that, the DNA in this case?
Well, it's not at all important for purposes of the defense, so I don't know why the defense lawyer spent so much time going over the testimony. It basically just bolstered the state's expert witness. So if it's not a key focus of your defense, you need to just leave it alone. You don't have to cross-examine every single witness in a trial. You focus on what helps your defense, and the rest of the time just stay in your seat. So I don't understand the focus of that cross at all.
Do you think when there is an extensive cross with sort of an unclear goal like that one, that it starts to lose jurors?
Oh, absolutely. You only have a limited amount of time with the jury's attention. And especially in a case that's going to be as long as this one, if they start to expect you as a lawyer, you're going to get up, you're going to waste their time, you're going to ask questions that don't seem to have a point or are not directly relevant to your defense, then they're going to start tuning you out at some point. So you really don't want to waste the jury's time or attention. You want to be focused on cross. And there is nothing wrong with not cross-examining a witness if there's nothing that you can get from that witness that will help the ultimate defense in the case.
Yeah, well, obviously they didn't take your advice on that one, Paige. All right, it looks like this witness is stepping down. I want to remind our viewers, closing arguments in the McStay family murders underway right now. The prosecution still delivering its closing. You can watch that live on lawandcrime.com. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, much more from the Kellen Winslow Jr. trial out of California. Stay with us.